Happy New Year's Eve, Washington, and welcome back to Post Sports Live for a special New Year's Eve edition. Joining me in the Post TV studios are Mike Wise, Dan Steinberg, and Jason Reid, all who've been very busy over the course of the last week, last 48 hours, really, especially from New York, that the season finale for the Redskins, that farce of a game in the Meadowlands, to now losing Shanahan and moving on to the coaching search. Have you guys gotten any sleep?
No, I think a lot of people, and I know you guys get this too, we're doing God's work. I mean, this is really God's work. It's sports writing. Who cares?
all right. So make light of it. Jason, you look like you were tired earlier. I don't know.
He's not trying hard enough.
No, certainly not. No, it's been no need to pat ourselves on the back. We're doing our job.
Yeah, right.
But it has been, having been around this thing now since 2007. And I always find myself, or I often find myself at the end of the year, grinding to try to find out who's coming and who's going. And once again, that turned out to be the case.
Well, we have a lot to talk about in today's show. Obviously, we're going to start with the organizational changes, the GM decision for Bruce Allen, which you guys both wrote strong columns about today. We'll talk about the next head coach, some of the candidates, some of the dark horses. We'll talk about RG3's role in the decision-making, if there will be any, for the next head coach. And then finally, we'll wrap up with some roster discussions about Kirk Cousins and any of the free agents that may be worth bringing back for the new head coach, and offer some bold predictions for 2014 and a resolution for DC sports. There are some good things. Like the Wizards are 500. We won't have time to talk about them today, but we'll get to them more next week.
That was a huge victory.
I know, over the Pistons.
John played outstandingly.
All-star worthy, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah? Yes. I saw a tweet
so.
from you. All right. We got to start, Jason, with I want to talk about the organizational changes. We all saw the firing of Shanahan coming. But what about the decision to make Bruce Allen the general manager? Give me your thoughts.
Well, I mean, I put my thoughts in the paper this morning. I think when you finish 5 of 6 years in last place, that something is inherently wrong about your operation. I think that at that point, a new set of eyes are needed, new blood is needed. If for no other reason than just to say, you know what, guys, you have some good people here, but let me bring a fresh perspective that maybe can help us in the long run. Now, what we've seen from the Redskins is that they don't believe in trying to do things the right way. They believe in doing things the Dan Snyder way, which clearly has failed. I mean, when you talk about a 14-year run, 4 winning seasons, 4 playoff appearances, and 5 of the last 6 years in last place, I don't know how you continually sell doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get a different result. As far as Bruce Allen specifically, Bruce Allen is very good at some things. He is an ambassador. He is someone who can be a face of an organization. He's great at shaking hands and kissing babies. But if you're talking about a guy who has the chops, the scouting chops, to look at a roster in disrepair and say, okay, guys, tell me what we need to do, and I'll make the last decision on the talent to fix it, I believe he is incapable of doing that. And in closing, and I know I've gone on for a bit here, Scott Campbell and Morocco Brown, who are their 2 top player personnel guys, they are well respected. I've talked to people around the league about them. Morocco Brown very soon someday could run his own shop. But when you talk about this team and what has happened here, to not bring in a general manager who was a successful top lieutenant in another organization, a guy who has the proven scouting background, it is what it is.
To play devil's advocate, Mike, I want to ask you if...
I don't think you should ask him.
Won't the Snyder...
I'm going to agree with him completely.
Won't
the
Snyders... But to say that it's the same old Snyder plan, this is at least going away from the one-person head coach / GM making all the decisions.
This is what they did with Vinny, though. This is what they did with Vinny.
Okay, so you're saying that Vinny's role will be what Bruce will be doing now.
He's saying they're putting someone in charge who's not qualified to be in charge. That's what they're saying.
So it's back to the future, which is a quote that you used in one of your in your column this morning.
Can I if I could play devil's advocate, and you obviously know more about the inner workings of that organization than I do, but isn't it? I think it's possible that they're not done. He said they could bring in additional voices, and I think that. I mean, co-GMs is not something that is done, and is certainly an unusual move, but. I think that Bruce is a very good talker and a very good politician, like you said in your thing. And I think it's possible that he sort of overstated what his own role in personnel will be.
Well, if he did, that's great. I think that'd be great because Jason Reid pointed out in an earlier column that the way to do this was simple. obviously Bruce Allen has ingratiated himself to the owner just like Vinny Serrato had. The nice thing about Bruce Allen is his father once coached this team to a Super Bowl. To me, it's not even transparent or camouflage. All this owner has been doing is selling the past because it makes people forget about the present. It's the one thing that has value for him. His stewardship as owner has no value. The draft now has no value. The roster has very little value. The coaching staff has no value. It's gone. But the brand has value. And Bruce Allen is part of the brand from his father's days. And I think he has shaken hands, and he is, as one former coach said, he brushes his teeth with Coors Light. He's a social animal. And he's got Dan Snyder believing that he's one of the guys now. And he takes him out, and it's just, so that's fine. That's great. Make him, like Jason Reed said, the team president.
Right.
And bring in a guy that knows football. This guy's been 62-82 the last 9 years with the teams he's been. He got John Gruden fired. He got Mike Shanahan fired. And he's taken no accountability.
Dan, is it possible?
No real accountability.
Is it possible that there are?
Pretty harsh.
Is it possible
It's
that there?
true, though.
Well, wait. Let me
It's
ask you this:
true.
is it possible that there are a few real football GM types out there that would want to come work for Snyder?
Well,
And as such, they don't have many
I mean, I think
options
there
and have to put Allen in
I'm
that
sure
position.
there are people who would say no, but I'm sure there are people who would say yes. There's got to be. It's like what everyone says. There's 32
Money
of these
talks.
jobs in the world. There's
Do you know
32 in the whole world.
Do you know what Bruce Allen's greatest contribution this year has been? Behind the scenes, he's worked on the name issue more than anybody has. And I'll give him credit. He's actually listened to some Native Americans. This guy has put some time in. That's his job as a team president. He's not a football guy.
What does this mean about the head coach likelihood on the horizon? The fact that this restructuring, Bruce Allen becomes the GM. Does this mean that the guys like Cowher, like John Gruden, possibly who want to do it all, won't be in the mix now? Jason, do you think?
Well, you know, the fallacy about Cowher is that when he was in Pittsburgh, I mean, clearly he had a great deal of input, but there were other people getting the groceries. And so, you know, if let's say you would bring a guy like Cowher who's been so far removed from this thing, he would need a strong player personnel guy. I have no questions about that. But in terms of what this means for the coach, what this means is, the better question is what this means for the organization. What it means for the organization is Dan Snyder has broken out the box, and nobody's ever going to be able to put him back in again. He largely was on the sidelines because Mike Shanahan demanded it, and he needed the credibility Shanahan brought. He will never allow this to happen again. He's never going to pay somebody $7 million to tell him to go stand in the corner again. And that's the big fear for the Washington
can I
Redskins.
say
And what
one more-
Shanahan did blew up, though. Go ahead.
Can I add one other thing? You know, I think a lot of fans that I've heard from point, kind of sadly, as an example to Baltimore, is what they wish this franchise could be now. And I think when you look at the organizational structure in Baltimore, they have Dick Hass, who's actually a local D.C. guy and still lives in Montgomery County, who does that president role. And he does it great. I've talked to him. He's great at what he does. Then they've got Ozzie Newsome, who is like peerless as a talent evaluator. And they've got John Harbaugh, who was, you know, an up-and-coming, young, hungry coach who they gave him a chance, and he's won. And even this year, with all the players that they lost last year, they were still playing for a playoff spot in the last week
And
of
you
the
know
season.
why? You know why they're successful? Because they have the right people doing well-defined roles, and everybody does it as an organization. But there's no question about Ozzie's the guy who gets the players. John has input, but John's a great, hungry young coach, and John coaches the team. And the team president's the team president. And do you know why they win? Because that is how you win.
Clear delineation of roles.
Let me ask one final getaway question. I know we're over our time already. So Hazlitt, the fact that he was not canned, did that surprise you at all yesterday?
Well, he has money coming to him.
He's still under contract, correct.
And, you know, you're paying Dan Snyder's paying Mike Shanahan $7 million not to work next year. He's paying Kyle Shanahan, now this may get offset if Kyle gets a job, but right now he's paying Kyle $1.5 million not to work. You got $8.5 million in salaries just in those two guys you're paying not to work.
Kyle makes $1.5 million.
He got an extension.
It's more than you.
In any event, back on the rails real quickly.
Yeah, thanks.
The bottom line is that if you're Dan Snyder, what you're going to do with all your prospective candidates is, you know, I'm going to let you hire your staff, but this guy's under contract. Let's take a long, hard look at him.
All right, let's move on to the next question, which is the head coaching. And the next head coach is, guys, and Mike, I want to start with you. Give me a likely head coaching candidate and a dark horse candidate, and why?
Boy, I can't remember who I sent to Jane, one of our producers.
You can turn
who
around
does
and
a
look.
great
They might
job.
be on that
wait.
great graphic behind us.
Oh, Cowher, yeah, that was it. Yeah, I mean, it was just sort of like a, you know, throwing the names in the hat, the regular names. Really, I'd love to see an outside the box person, but But Bill Cowher made sense because there was a rumor that actually Dan Snyder had, nobody checked it out, but that he'd reached out and Mike Shanahan had heard about it. I don't know if any of that's true. I don't even believe it. But the idea that
you're a reporter, you're supposed to figure that stuff out.
All right, come on, continue.
It just went like this.
I didn't write it because I didn't believe it.
Okay, get another idea.
Chucky is not gonna. I cannot. The only reason I don't want Gruden here is you just see the lines coming out of his mouth like Robert Griffin III is as tough as a $2 steak. Let me tell you right now. Like, I don't want that.
How long now?
So and Gruden and Allen aren't gonna. I don't believe they're gonna partner again. Bottom line is I only have one dark horse, and I think everybody knows who it is. LeVar Arrington. I think LeVar would be tremendous. You guys don't see that at all.
The organizational
didn't get a laugh line on that. We need the laugh
organizational
track
structure
for
of
that.
this show. It's like serious.
Well, I mean,
All right, Dan,
does
give me
anybody know who's
your.
gonna be the coach?
I'm having trouble kind of delineating between serious candidate and dark horse, but I mean, I think in terms of a mainstream guy, Lovie Smith, we've already heard, is a guy that they'll probably interview. There's a lot of rumors about him going on with Tampa right now, but he's got some chops. I think that the fan base, there's a lot of guys who have a lot of negative implications for the fan base. And I think this one doesn't have any of that. He's won when he's coached before. He's not a huge ego. I mean, I think that seems like a realistic possibility. As for like a dark horse, I don't know if Art Briles is a dark horse or a mainstream candidate or what he is exactly, but I think it would be a terrible, terrible move, and I think for reasons that Jason has written, it would just create a horrible amount of drama, especially if they start losing. But I think that
and then all of a sudden, RG3, Robert Griffin III makes the coaching hire.
I think
that's a disaster.
I think it's someone that they'll look at, and RG3 is going to the bowl game right now as we speak. I can't imagine the topic won't come up. You saw Ken Starr, the president of Baylor University, was already saying, that they have a battle in front of them to keep this guy in Waco. We'll see.
Interesting. I wonder how many other teams are interested in Briles, if any. Jason, give me a dark horse and a likely candidate for head coach.
Well, as Mike pointed out so well, among the rambling things he said, all they have to sell is their past. That's it. Because the present is a joke, so all they can sell is the past. So if you go along,
wait, can't they sell RG3 a little bit? It's not.
You can't.
That's not a complete.
You may have a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
You don't. You're not.
You can't sell them the way you can't sell them the way you sold them last year because you don't know if you can read defenses.
Fair.
And until you find out whether you can be a pocket passer and not just a pocket passer, but a great pocket passer, you have two young quarterbacks.
But the Redskins situation is not as bad as some of the others that are open right now.
Let's put it this way: you have two young quarterbacks there who have ability.
Sure.
One who has a very high ceiling if he can learn to be a pocket passer, but you can't sell that the way you need to sell it.
Okay.
Not the way you could sell it previously. So I think when you look at as Mike put it so well, the thing that they have to sell is their past. I look at a guy like Ken Wisenhunt, who played for Gibbs, a guy who played for Gibbs briefly, a guy who took Arizona to a Super Bowl, which no one ever thought was possible. So
almost won that Super Bowl.
So I could see Bruce Allen, as Mike pointed out with his hair looking so nice, standing at a lectern talking about part of the Redskins' history, bringing that back. I can see that in my mind's eye.
Wisenhunt makes most sense to me too.
Russ Grimm in that vein as well.
Dark horse?
How about a dark horse?
As I wrote on Sunday, to me the main thing that you have to do with this coaching search is find a guy who you can say to yourself he can make Robert Griffin what you need him to be. So I look at guys who've had good dual threat quarterbacks in this league, and for me, Darrell Bevell. This is a guy who, when he had Brett Favre in Minnesota, he put together a very outstanding offense there. Pete Carroll gives him credit for enabling Russell Wilson to reach his ceiling. So I look at a guy like Darrell Bevell as a dark horse candidate.
I guess we don't have time for this because every segment we do is going to go over. But I would love to know where you think the Redskins' job ranks among the openings and why you think it's anywhere near the top, because I don't see why it would be.
I mean, this
RG3 franchise quarterback. So I would say Detroit has more talent. I'll give you Detroit, but I don't. I mean, maybe Minnesota. You can make an argument because of Adrian Peterson and a great running game.
Yeah, they've got.
But that's a tougher division.
On the line.
Tampa. What's Tampa got?
How about Houston?
Houston with a good defense. Houston with a good defense. I don't think the Redskins are at the bottom.
How about Cleveland has 2 first-round draft picks and the Redskins have 0?
Fair point, but they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
So quarterback is the one thing you need.
So I'd say Washington job is better than Cleveland and Tampa. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's. We'll see, but they don't have the history that Washington has.
The history of working with
Super Bowl.
the history
great organization.
All right.
The history of top-down management from Dan Snyder.
Quickly, how soon until the Redskins hire a head coach?
When's the conference championship game?
2.5 weeks.
I think if they get who they want, I think it could be a 2.5 week process. If they start getting turned down, it could go long. But I think
this
2.5 weeks before the Super Bowl, we think.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, before the Super Bowl, they could get themselves. You don't want them to get into a situation like they did with Jim Zorn, where Steve Spagnuolo and others were using them for leverage 5 years ago.
And just because I can't resist this question, and just as a final sign-on to Mike Shanahan, percentage, quickly, of the likelihood that he will return as a head coach in the NFL at any point?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I would say 0 to 5%.
0 to 5%?
But I have to qualify it quickly. I mean, 24.
Not next year.
24 and no, not even that. 24 and 40, and a scorched earth, get me fired, collect $7 million last month.
See, I think that's a huge factor to it. But I think the record. I think you can forget the record a little bit, because last year they were a division winner that was riding high, and I think that you can say the first 3 years there was a pattern going this way. I think that scorched earth thing though is going to.
But what percentage? Give me a number.
I think higher than that. 25.
25%.
I say 50%.
50%.
I believe. I don't think a good team would hire him, but I think he would go to a rebuilding team just to show that this was the problem, not him.
Can I say
I
one
expected
thing?
numbers closer to what Jason said.
Can
Go
I say
ahead.
one thing? Ever since John, in the 14 years since John Elway retired, 5 playoff appearances, 1 playoff victory, 3 of 4 years with the Redskins in last place. Now here's the thing. He had total control during that time. That's a hard sell, on top of the fact that he burned every bridge that he possibly could find to get out.
Right.
It's a compelling argument for the 0 to 5%
A team
rule.
like Cleveland, 5 playoff appearances in 14 years is heaven for them.
Yeah, Shanahan did what my father said once. I said, Dad, why doesn't anybody like you after? And he said, Mike, I don't burn bridges, I detonate them.
Torch them.
And that's what
All right.
Shanahan does.
All right. What role, guys? Let's move on to
bless
the RG3 Factor. Jason, you wrote about this after Sunday's game. Actually, I'll start with Dan. Dan, what role should and what role will Robert Griffin III play in the search for the new head coach?
I don't have a lot of opinions. I don't have a lot of opinions in life. I feel strongly about this one. I think that he should play a 0.0% role in this. There's too many personalities. There's too many players. There's too many bad perceptions from this year already. He should not be involved with this in any way whatsoever. Well, will he play? Slightly more than 0. I would hope that it's a lot less than.
I think you give him a call.
Yeah.
And you give him a call and you say, look, we're probably going to hire this guy. We think he can work well with you. What do you think? And then you take that as it may. You don't let that factor into 5% of your decision. You're the owner or the general manager. This is the coach. There is a structure here. Until we get that structure right, as Jason said, there is no success. If there's a delineation of power in this franchise, they will go somewhere. Until we know who the boss is and when, this team will not do anything.
That didn't exactly answer the question, but Jason, give me
What do you want me to say?
I'm not sure where
What
he's
do you want me to say?
What role will he play? What role should he play, Jason?
If they're smart, he will play no role. And if they're smart, they will make sure that it gets out that he played no role.
That's a big if.
Right.
That's what he just said, and you give me a hard time.
There's no question
You
about
treat me like
that.
LeVar.
What does that mean?
If they're smart, okay, and that's the big it, but if they're smart, they will look at what the situation is. They'll say, we invested 4 high-round picks to get this guy. He was a rookie of the year. He hurt himself. He's got to learn how to read defense. He shouldn't have to tell them to make his situation paramount in picking the coach.
And I also think if it ever got out that he actually was a key factor in deciding, that's just death for him in the media and everywhere else. Because we go, oh boy, not only did he get the other coach out of town, he got this guy. Now he better be. This guy just has to worry about, as Jason said, reading defenses and becoming a great quarterback. He doesn't need to worry about commercials.
I was going to ask Jason a question. Do you want to finish your thought?
I'd like
finish
to
your
finish
thought.
But here's what people also have to understand, though. This kid's psyche is damaged right now. And his spirit was, if not broken, almost broken by his distrust for the Shanahans. And now RG3 had culpability in what happened this year. his father had culpability. When let me get that out there. I've written that. I believe that. But you have to understand, Robert now believes that he wants someone he can trust. He wants someone he can believe in, which is why he would be open to the idea of Art Briles coming here, even though it would be the absolute worst decision the team could make. It'd be worse than going back to Zorn. Okay.
Wow.
But
stop.
No,
Wow.
it would be because if it didn't work, Robert's a coach killer and then he's a cancer and his career is done. That's why it would be worse. Now, having said that,
Worse for him.
worse for this organization, because here's the thing. There's not another organization in professional sports, maybe except the the Oakland Raiders, that would give up 4 high-round draft picks for a kid and then systematically do everything they could to devalue him. So understand this. As bad as Robert feels right now, as much as his confidence and his trust for coaches is going to have to be rebuilt, and as much as being in a nurturing environment of an Art Briles is something that he may want and something that Snyder may want, because remember, Snyder sees one thing in this kid: revenue streams for a decade. So the bottom line on the whole thing is the organization needs to put Robert paramount in its decision to get a coach, but the organization should not let Robert pick the coach.
That's a succinct way to put it.
Maybe there's not any time to discuss it really, but throwing it out there, maybe you get a defensive coach in there. Maybe the head guy is a defensive coach. Offensive coaches haven't worked here for the last few years, and maybe that sort of shields RG3 from
But then
some
you
of the
got to get a
drama.
coordinator who can help this kid,
Yeah.
because he doesn't. He
Understood.
got to learn to read defense.
I wish
Lovie
you were
Smith.
as touchy-feely as you were about RG3's feelings than you were for this fan base that deserves a hell of a lot better.
All right. Hey,
I just did
the other
the
thing
first
about
one.
Lovie Smith, Dan, his
So-
special teams were always good in Chicago. All right. Let's move on to the roster, guys, gentlemen. And then, Mr. Wise, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
Give me the current read on the Kirk Cousins trade value after the way he finished the season poorly in that terrible game in New York. Do you still feel as strongly about the team needing to move him in the offseason as you did just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I think if you can get something for him, the great irony of all this is Mike Shanahan's scorched earth policy is it's almost as if not only did he devalue the franchise quarterback and mess with his confidence by benching him the last 3 games, he devalued Kirk Cousins by letting him throw 49 times in the rain the other day. I mean, I don't know if he left Washington with a quarterback controversy. I don't believe that, but I do believe there's a part of me that if you can leap to Mike Shanahan wanted to get himself fired, why can't you leap to Mike Shanahan wanted Kirk Cousins to look bad against the Giants?
Dan, isn't that the silver lining, though, potentially for the people who thought that all along Cousins needs to stay as a backup? There's no longer a quarterback controversy because of the way he played.
You know what? I still think that it's best for everyone if he's gone, even if it just brings back the 4th-round pick that he brought in to begin with.
Smart.
I
He's
think-
right.
Even for a 4th rounder?
He's right.
I mean, that's what he cost. If you get that back, a 3rd-rounder, I don't know. I mean, that was kind of a worst-case scenario, but I
Right.
think you get a 3rd-rounder, whatever. I understand what you're saying, that he devalued himself. He looked really, really bad in that Giants game, but people will say there was bad weather. He didn't have Jordan Reed.
He
Team
didn't
wasn't
look great in the
trying.
Cowboys game either, but he was okay.
I'm telling
He
you,
was okay.
I'm telling you, if RG3 struggles in the first game next year, if he struggles in the first 2 games next year, people absolutely would be talking about Kirk Cousins again. I don't think it's worth it.
But here's the flip side, and I'll counter-argue just for a moment. I think you bring Kirk Cousins back for the sole purpose of he's your insurance policy in case the kid gets hurt. RG3 is your start. Griffin is your starting quarterback, but Kirk Cousins could in fact be that safety valve guy that Rex Grossman was when Donovan
Okay, but
McNabb
at this
was
point,
here.
he's not going to know the offense anyhow. Why not just bring in like a Josh McCown or whatever? You bring in some anonymous, no-name
A veteran who's
backup
not a
who
threat.
no one's going to call for.
And I understand.
Josh McCown's pretty good.
Well, fine.
No, I understand what Steins is saying, and I mean, and this is the way this thing was going to play out for the moment they made that pick. My problem with trading Cousins right now, 2 things. One, after that, he got progressively worse with more and more reps each week, more and more first-team reps. You look at that Giants game, I mean, I don't know what he could fetch right now, and he's more valuable to you for this reason, keeping him. Any coach that comes in here, Robert's a project. Okay, I was talking to a member of the organization about this on Sunday. Robert is clearly a project. And you don't know, the brace will come off next year. Hopefully he'll regain a lot of speed, quickness. But he still has to learn how to read defenses. He still has to learn pocket presence. And if you're a coach coming in here, you're going to be like, wait a minute. The other kid didn't look great in those 3 games either, but he's young and he's a pro-style guy. well, let me hedge my bet here a little bit. I'm keeping both of these guys, and let's see how it works out. I do agree with Steins. If Robert should be the starter going next year, there should be no quarterback competition,
Correct.
not with the way Kirk played. But if Robert plays poorly and the team struggles at the outset of next season, there will be calls to get him out of here. My opinion is, and I've written this, you need to give Robert Griffin III one full season of totally being committed to him to gauge his progress. If it doesn't work out after then, you cut bait, but you can't cut bait.
So that full season is next year with a full offseason. He's got to be longer than that.
Here's the thing, and I know we're off the rails, but it is on the table right now that this kid look.
It's on the table for you.
No. It's on. Look, I've talked to player personnel people. I've talked to scouts about this.
Okay, Mike Shanahan.
No, not Mike. Oh, well, I have talked to him about it too, but I'm not using it for this purpose.
Go ahead. Quickly.
What they will tell you is it is 50-50 right now whether this kid is ever going to be not just a decent pocket passer. You gave up 4 high-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
They need him to be a great pocket passer,
okay.
and hopefully he gets the brace off and he gets a lot of his athleticism and quickness back. But it is on the table right now. If he struggles badly next year, there will be a question going into 2015. Well, how much longer can we look at this? Because here's the thing:
if he struggles, I mean, that's got to be historically bad struggle.
You put
but
the right
I hear
people
you.
around this kid. He will be a very good quarterback.
Quickly wrap up your point.
Quickly
wrap up your point. Dan, put your hands out.
Go ahead.
Let me just say, and I know we're off the rails. I know Mitch is very upset about this.
We said off the rails 8 times.
I know, but let me just say this. The bottom line on the whole thing is this: what is the number one job of a politician?
To shake hands and
no,
kiss
Mike.
To win elections.
To get reelected. What is the number one job of a football coach? To stay as a football coach. If you're a football coach and you come here and you realize Robert Griffin III is a project, and after one full season of total commitment to him, look, whatever the cat calls are to get you sat down, you're my guy. Nothing happened. But if at the end of that season you determine as a head coach, you know what, I may not be able to win with this guy, and I'm not advocating this, but I'm saying it is on the table. That's all I'm saying.
All right, it's really interesting. That's a little bit of that. Quickly sum it up because I'm getting yelled at.
Being a Kardashian in the offseason and wants to be an elite quarterback,
he'll
be fine.
This offseason will be much
fine.
quieter.
And you put some talent around him, there is no question in my mind this will be one of the better quarterbacks in the league the next 10 years.
Let's talk about the rest of the roster, guys. Lots of free agents. Give me one name, Mr. Steinberg, since you haven't spoken in about 10 minutes, it seems like. Yeah, thank you. One name for a free agent the Redskins should try to retain this offseason.
You know, I think I'd like to see him keep Perry Riley. I don't know that he's a superstar, but he's some kind of a find in the draft. Was he like a 4th-round pick or something like that? And he, this defense wasn't great, but he led the team in tackles. He stepped in there, and the defense seemed to, by some measures anyhow, improve as the season went on. I think when you look at this list, there's not a lot of superstars on there, with the possible exception of Arakpo. But I think that Perry Riley could be a piece for a defense, and they don't have a lot of pieces on that defense.
Mike.
I'm going to drop some knowledge on you, Jay Forsythe.
Please.
Rex Grossman. And it's not a joke.
Come on.
No, I'm serious. I'm going to drop some knowledge on you. Rex Grossman needs to return because he knows this system, even though it's not longer in.
The system's gone. The system's gone.
Let me finish. Rex Grossman is the one guy on the roster that RG3 trusts.
That is true.
Do you know the guy who actually told him to actually have his dad butt out? Because Rex Grossman's father got in the media in Chicago, and Rex Grossman had to go, Dad, shut up, I'll take care of this. Rex Grossman told Robert Griffin III. Shortly after that, you didn't see any interviews from RG2 for a while.
He was right about that, John.
So then hire him as a coach or something. You don't need to keep him on the right. That's interesting.
What? Yeah, I just found out the other day. It was like
breaking news on Post Sports Live. I like that.
The other day.
Dropping the knowledge, Mike.
I told you.
Save it for the show. That's good. Jason, give me a free agent, another free agent, different one.
Well, it's often said in sports that it's better to get out too early than too late. But having said that, D'Angelo Hall has had a Pro Bowl caliber season. I mean, and D. Hall, people wanted to run him out of town for several years. Heck, he was run out of town until they decided to bring him back. And he's up there, he's getting up there in age and all that. But when you talk about a guy who really stepped up this season, he did. So for me, my money, he's a guy I would bring back. Now the question becomes how much you're going to spend to bring him back. But he's a guy I would bring back.
All right, to wrap things up, guys, I want to go to bold predictions. And good news, everybody, the show's almost over. I want to go back to our season-long Redskins predictions. Week 1 of the preseason, we made predictions for the season. and I'll run them down. Mike, you weren't here for that show, so luckily you didn't make one.
I said 3-13.
Yeah, LeVar said that the Redskins would become an elite team, in quotes. Jason, you had the Redskins winning a playoff game. Mm-hmm. And Dan, yours is still possible, actually. You said that this would be Cousins' last season with the Redskins.
That was his bold prediction?
That was his bold predictions before. Yeah, this guy.
You know what? I say this on Twitter
the guy
all the
who
time,
keeps his
dude.
mouth shut.
I say this on Twitter all the time. Steins is one of the baddest MFs on the planet. He really, no, dude, I say it on Twitter all the time.
He's straight balling.
All right.
So
Dan, congratulations on the potential to have nailed that bold prediction.
Can I say MF?
Yeah, you said you already did. Whatever.
Right.
We're live. All right. So give me some bold predictions, Mike, starting with you, for this wild card weekend, okay, in the NFL, and then I also want your Super Bowl pick.
Peyton Manning goes down in the first round.
They have a bye.
I thought I
So choose another game. You got Kansas City, Indianapolis.
I know.
You got Green Bay, San Fran.
It's not a bold prediction, but I think the Chargers are going to beat the Bengals.
Okay.
It is a bold prediction.
That's bold.
Yeah, I think
That's
the
on
Chargers
the road,
are
a
gonna
team
beat
that
the
backs
Bengals.
into the
and Bengals have not lost at home this year.
Dan, give me something. But give me your Super. Oh, go ahead, bold predictions, and we'll come back around for Super Bowl.
I'm giving all 4 winners, I guess, which is bold. I think that both home teams win in the AFC in the first round. I think both road teams win in the NFC. So that would be the Saints going on the road and the 49ers going on the road.
I like that.
Thank
what
you.
do you got, Jace?
What this guy said.
Same thing. Yeah, come on, man.
No, seriously. I told you I think he's one of the smartest guys around. I'm going to go with what he said.
I actually like that. I like I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to go 3 road teams win this weekend.
Ah.
I'll take Kansas City winning in Indy.
The one that Wise doesn't take. That's
The
a
one.
good call.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's a good call.
And we going Super Bowl?
Let's go Super Bowl.
I'm going to go. I'm going to say Pete Carroll coaches against his former team, the Patriots, in the Super Bowl, and he gets waxed because the karma for cheating at USC comes back to him.
You know what?
Yes, he cheated. Don't start with me,
Here.
Trojan.
Dan,
Don't
give me your
start
Super
with
Bowl
me.
pick.
You know, this might be. I think I'm going to say the Saints will face the
Nice, the
Patriots.
6th seed.
I've got the Saints facing the Patriots.
Like that.
And I don't know who's going to win. But I feel bad taking
like
the
the
same
Pats,
team.
too.
I feel
Saints
a
to
little bad
do it
about
on the road. I like
Uh,
it. What do you like, Jace?
I like Pete Carroll, who won 2 national championships in college. I like his Seattle Seahawks team defeating the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl and him becoming. I don't know how many coaches have actually won NCAA championships and Super Bowls, but I see that happening this year.
Way to go, chalk, Jason.
Well,
Nice bold
I think that's
prediction
actually
there.
bold. I think
Isn't
only
that
one
bold?
time in the last 9 years have both
Thank
won.
you.
Oh, there it
Thank
is.
you.
There it
See,
is. You get it.
thank you.
I'm with you on Denver. I think
What do you-
I think Peyton Manning gets the 2nd Super Bowl win, but I got him beating Carolina in the Super Bowl. Cam Newton, Peyton Manning.
No way.
There you go.
It'd be a great story.
All right. All right. Give me one sentence New Year's resolution for DC Sports. Does not have to be football or Redskins related. Jason Reid, should I start with you?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
When you look at what the Washington Wizards are doing right now, if you're a DC sports fan, it gives you hope. And is it bold or just a prediction?
No,
It's a resolution. Whatever.
Resolution, yeah,
My prediction for the new year is that John Wall will lead the Wizards to the playoffs.
Playoffs. All right.
It's
I
big
like-
for you because you couldn't stand it.
No, I don't.
We'll
there's
take that up.
nothing
We have
personal.
plenty of shows in the new year to
I'm
talk
going to
about
take
that.
the most obvious resolution possible, which is just don't get your hopes up again. I mean, it's so obvious. We've all been burned by this twice in the last 6 months with the Nats and the Redskins. But you know, I guess just wait and see a little bit before you start getting your hopes up. And you can't. You know, one season is not predictive of the next. Really, it just doesn't work that way. So just maybe keep things holstered for a little while longer.
Couple on the way out of town. One, this show is going to be expanded to an hour, and it's
I think this show today,
and
we're
we don't have
pushing
any
on that right now.
We don't have any advertisers, and it's on the internet, so it really doesn't matter. All right, and secondly,
I'm sure that's the way they- everybody
there will be a parade.
He took off his glasses.
There will be a parade in this town.
is that?
There will be a parade in this town. The Washington Nationals are going to win the World Series, and me, Steins, and Jay Reid will be on a float. Forsythe,
Where am
you'll
I
be
gonna be?
gassing up.
I'll be driving it.
Yeah.
So
All right,
one of us says have realistic expectations, and the other starts talking about a parade.
There you go. You get
You
a
don't
little bit of
think
everything.
the Washington
The other
Nationals
one has
have a shot
playoffs.
to win the World Series?
Go ahead.
They do. I'm gonna take a lesser approach, and just as a Maryland guy, I'm gonna say Seth Allen comes back for the Terps and leads them back to the NCAA tournament, but they barely sneak in. But they need to get back.
That's
what
not a
I'm gonna do.
resolution.
That's a resolution. The Terps get back. You're saying to just keep expectations down.
That's a resolution.
All right, mine's a prediction, like
Thank-
Mike's and
thank-
like Jason's.
Thank you, Kevin Anderson.
Thank you,
Okay.
I didn't say that. All right, for everybody, Happy New Year. If you're driving, don't drink.
Happy
If you
New
drink,
Year.
don't drive. For Jason Reid, Dan Steinberg,
New
Mike
Year,
Wise,
man.
thanks for sticking with us on the show. We'll see you in the new year next week on Tuesday.
Be safe, everybody. Happy New Year.
That was fun. Yeah, I enjoyed that.